Hi, welcome back to Money Talks with Dad. Hi, Dad.
Hey, daughter.
Let's talk housing today.
Part 2.
Part 2. To kind of recap / get us going for today, I want you to talk to me about the situation with my sibling, he who shall not be named.
Oh, we're telling everybody it's a sibling.
My
no, this hypothetical
friend
person
in life.
that we heard about.
My lifelong
Yeah.
friend.
Okay. So, young couple
Yeah.
starting their lives soon-ish in September.
They're
as
alive,
a married couple.
but okay, yes, as a married couple.
It was kind of funny because we're driving and he's like, "Oh my gosh, check this out. We've been looking at houses in our area and we found like the perfect one. It's literally the cheapest one for sale."
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
They're looking at houses. This young married couple. This young not yet married couple.
So
when
I mean,
apartments
I
are
don't
so
know.
readily available.
I think we're gonna talk about maybe like young Jeff and maybe like the young
Okay.
our young family,
Yeah.
because your twin brothers have had a different financial experience
That is true.
than
They are being raised by vastly different parents
our
than I
older
was.
4 siblings. But anyways, yes, they are.
Okay.
They are getting married and looking at houses.
Houses.
Houses
To buy.
to buy as college students.
It just feels so much. Like, I feel like everything that we've learned about housing and buying versus renting and everything. This makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in a way we might have failed them.
Dad, stop trauma dumping on the
in
podcast.
in terms of setting expectations properly on how life works.
Like what life realistically
Yeah.
actually is.
And like we've been upfront with how much things cost, but apparently we have not been upfront with housing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't think, okay, you're getting married and you're in college,
Yeah.
we should buy a house.
Yeah, no.
And so anyways, so they're like, we found literally the cheapest one in our area. It's 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Like it would be perfect for a really long time.
Yeah.
It has like 0.8 acres.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and they're like,
It's a great starter home.
yeah, a perfect starter home.
Yeah.
And he's like,
And we live in a pretty cheap area, right?
it's supposed, I mean, for
least it used to
where
be.
we're at,
Yeah.
like the reason we chose here is you could get like almost 1,000 more square feet for the same price as
Yeah.
the other bigger areas around us. So we picked
Okay.
it for that, but that was 7 years ago.
Okay.
And even when you moved 5 years ago,
Yeah, sounds about right.
your house was literally, it might have even been this price, and your house is twice
Yeah.
as big as this house.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, it's only $358,000.
Yeah.
First off, we're like, only.
Only.
Because I was
Only
thinking,
is
oh, cool, he
interesting.
found like $150,000 house.
Right, yeah.
And I said, okay, cool. Like, and he showed me all the pictures. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
we could make this like our office. And we could
Aw.
like, and
He's
and
so
my, like,
excited, yeah.
my heart's like breaking.
Yeah.
Because I said, okay, you're on Zillow. Scroll down to where it says estimated mortgage. And there's some errors with some of that, but it's
Yeah.
a general ballpark.
Roughly.
And he's like, okay, it's only $2,500, but that includes all the things we talked about in housing part 1.
Okay.
Your principal, which is how much you're buying into the house.
Yes.
Interest, taxes, and insurance.
Yeah.
And it assumes 20% down and like
he's got some
6.9.
savings.
And he does have some savings.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, first off, you don't have 20%.
Yeah,
And he is really good at math, and he didn't. He's like, oh, right.
Yeah.
We only have about 10% down.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, how much do you think you should be paying?
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
Like
I don't
monthly?
know, like monthly.
Okay.
And he's like, I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
And I said, could you imagine paying $2,500 rent? And
Yeah.
so he turns to his fiance, whose dad is renting
Yeah.
a townhome.
Yeah.
And he goes, how much does your dad pay for his place? And she goes, it is not that much. He goes,
Yeah.
and like you could kind of see it, like, seriously.
Yeah. Like the reality kind of like
Yeah.
settling in on him.
And I mean that I don't know where, because we want these to be more timeless podcasts.
For sure.
But one, again, in 5 years, the starter home is buying what is really your second home.
Yeah.
That, like I said, your home is, I think 1,400 square feet bigger than this one.
Yeah. I was like, it's
And
bigger. It's
more property.
We're on just under
like
an acre. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And this one needed some work inside. Yours was fully redone inside.
It
Like
was ready.
in 5 years, the fact that houses across the country
Yeah.
have jumped that much.
Well, and you said he was looking at it because this was the cheapest one he could find.
Literally the cheapest one for sale.
Wow. Wow.
And so we said, okay, that would be like your rent payment.
Yeah.
And that's what he was thinking. Oh, this is cheaper than rent, because that's what they've been told
Right.
in school. It's like, hey, buy a house because it's cheaper than renting.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not the case anymore. And
Yeah.
it's really difficult. So like I said, all the things we talked about in episode 1,
Mm-hmm.
he was basically going over quickly. He
Aw.
understood them.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get into what we wanted to talk about for episode or part 2 of housing,
Yeah.
which is some of the other things. And once his mom started bringing this stuff up,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like, all right.
Oh, his deflation. Yeah. Oh, poor boy. So we can get into some of those things then today.
Yeah.
So
And then backtracking, I don't even remember which episode it was, but we got a whole lot of comments, especially from spicy people on Facebook, where we talked about how once you graduated, we charged you guys rent.
Oh, yes. I loved how much people hated that.
Yeah, they're like, I
Just-
wouldn't give her the money.
Just make her pay it.
How dare you help your child out?
Yeah.
But
I
then
was
there was-
like, for sure.
To be fair, that was on Facebook.
Yeah. And you get some spicy people there.
TikTok, Instagram, everybody was very supportive. They're like,
Yeah.
I do this, or that's a great idea. I'm going to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Like, and so what we did was we took your rent
Mm-hmm.
and we kept it aside in an account. And when you were ready to buy a car,
Yeah.
we said, here is cash, go buy a car.
Yeah.
So you didn't have debt.
Yeah.
And so they have the same offer. So they're back to, okay, we will just rent.
Yeah.
They have a much nicer room than you had.
Oh,
They'll
yeah.
have their own bathroom.
Yep.
Like, they'll rent, we'll save their money for a down payment,
Yeah.
and then they'll have to get their, but not everybody has those options.
Absolutely. Yeah. Not
And-
everyone has that.
And some of the
available.
things your mom started talking about were the other costs of home ownership
like the hidden and like ongoing
Yep.
costs.
that weren't even, and then and that's the other
Yeah.
thing, which one of our episodes was on budgeting,
Mhm.
was I said, well, obviously before you guys get married, we're going to do the same thing we did with all of you.
Yeah.
And we're going to sit down and help you with your budget so you understand you cannot pay as a college student $2,500 a month in rent.
No, that's crazy.
You probably couldn't even pay $500 a month in rent.
Right. Yeah.
If you're a full-time student.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to try to figure out, well, how do we work and go to school?
That's so hard. Yeah.
But and then his fiance goes, oh yes, please, can we do that soon?
Yes, please. That's funny. Yeah. So talking, I don't know, would you consider maintenance and repair more a hidden or an ongoing?
I think it's a little of both.
A little bit. Yeah.
Depending on where you live, like when we lived in Arizona, you needed to have annual maintenance of your HVAC, your AC.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, some of those things where it just needs to built in,
Mm-hmm.
you need to pay somebody to come out, whether it's
Yeah.
$75 or $125 a year to just make sure everything's in good working order.
Yeah.
In Arizona, every 3 years you'd have to have more Freon, or like, because your AC is running like 10 months a year in Arizona.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And like it gets a lot more wear and tear.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's some ongoing costs of home ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And part of budgeting when you do own a house is you should maybe consider, like, 1 or 2% of your monthly income just setting aside because something's going to break.
Something will break. Yeah. Or like, so when Dustin and I bought our house, we were told up front, like, hey, this roof is fine. Like, it's in perfectly good condition, but you will have to replace it here in the next 5 years.
And how long have you been there?
We've been there for roughly 5 years, and weirdly, it's time to do our roof. And so we're in the whole process. I think we had a guy out like this last week figuring all that out. But we got to do our roof, we've got to do our siding, our deck, all the stuff that we were like, yeah, one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one day. Well, today's that day.
Yeah. And on your roof, your husband, Mr. YouTube,
Professor of YouTube,
and your
basically.
son's eyes can fix anything.
Oh,
with a
Daddy
hole,
can fix anything.
because he YouTubed how to fix the leak in your
did.
son's room.
Yep.
But he can't YouTube fixing the entire roof.
He did. He asked, he was like, well, Daddy can just get a really big ladder and do our roof. Like, why is that guy outside? And I was like, Mommy's not letting Daddy get on the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maintenance and then also repairs, which does make me think of the story of another family friend, totally not related to me, taking just a glorious bath after practice.
We assume it was so long story short.
Yeah, let's hear this story, Dad.
I mean, we're open.
Yeah.
Your mom and I enjoy playing Fortnite.
Yes.
Your unnamed people
Uh-huh.
taught us, like literally ask, hey, you want us to teach you how to play Fortnite?
They don't have to be unnamed, Dad. This is a family story. They can be the twins.
They taught us how to play Fortnite, and then we became just almost probably more addicted than they are as a nice way to unwind.
Yes, that is accurate. This
so
is
we're
your guys'
in our
favorite thing.
basement.
Yep.
And we're playing, and we start hearing this drip, drip, drip.
Mm-hmm.
And we look.
Which is such a good sound to hear, I think, in a house.
When you're in the basement.
When you're in the basement,
and we
it's
turn
just
around,
wonderful.
and there's like literally red water coming out of the roof, and we're, oh my God.
Like red water, you're thinking blood.
Yeah.
Someone
and
has
so
died upstairs.
We knew your brother was, after practice, the dude is like
Oh my
a
goodness.
60-year-old body and an 18-year-old.
His body is barely holding it together.
Because the way he plays sport, he's very aggressive. So he likes
intense.
those nice cold baths afterwards. Yeah. And so we're like, oh my gosh.
Something happened
We
to
go
Dayton.
running upstairs and...
Or somebody, sorry.
Yeah. Banging on the door. Are you okay? Yeah, why?
Yeah, why?
And we're like, what's going on? And he's like, nothing. Like, I'm fine.
Chilling.
So then we start diagnosing and we go down. So he's on the bedroom floor.
Yeah.
And then our main floor is the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the water was coming from the bathroom, hitting some fake flowers that I think his brother was doing for a homecoming proposal or whatever the thing is now. Like, talk about hidden costs of relationships.
Oh, for real.
Hey, I know we've been dating for 2 years, but would you please go to homecoming?
Will you come to homecoming with me?
Sorry. It's cute.
She
Anyways,
said yes, though, thankfully.
Yeah, imagine that. But he had bought fake flowers and had put them on the kitchen island.
Yeah.
Well, the water was hitting that, and the red dye from those was hitting. So that's why we saw red.
That makes sense.
So you're thinking, okay.
So then that went all the way.
And so then it dripped on the floor, and it found the low spot into the basement where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're thinking, okay, we had a similar problem, ironically, with the same two people when they were taking baths together.
Mm-hmm.
In our house in Tucson, where they were basically running the water and they had the bucket, and it was funny to see it overflowing.
Like, look at it overflowing.
But it was hitting the overflow of the bathtub spout.
Yep.
And apparently that plumbing was not hooked up right, and it was just going into the ceiling. But that was fixable because it was a one-time thing. So we had the plumbers come out, and they're like, well, we don't really see a leak.
Yeah.
But it appears this has been an ongoing thing. Long story short, something for months from these ice baths had been seeping into the ceiling where it got so saturated that it just finally gave way, and water started pouring everywhere. And so where we live, mold's a big issue. So, hey, we'll do all this, file a homeowner's insurance claim. Basically tearing out the ceiling of our kitchen,
much.
The flooring out of the bathroom, part of the ceiling in the basement. Thankfully only having to dry the floor in the kitchen.
Thank goodness.
But 4 weeks.
A lot of weeks,
I don't think we're going to talk about like picking your homeowner's insurance.
Okay.
But whether it's car insurance, health insurance, homeowner's insurance, you have a thing called a deductible.
Oh, yeah.
Well, me being a finance person and me literally, I think once or twice we filed an insurance claim ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, you could save more money per month by having a really high deductible.
Right.
But that just means when there's a claim, you have to pay that deductible, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like, even when an unnamed person hit the mirror on a traffic pylon, rather than filing the deductible, we're like, we'll just pay out of pocket because it's going to be less.
Who would do such a thing, though? Dang.
Probably. I don't know.
I mean, it was probably one of my siblings.
Probably one of your siblings.
Probably
it
one
was
of them.
Not you.
And it was definitely not me. Yeah.
But anyways, so we did a high deductible on our homeowner's insurance.
Yeah.
And I think it's $15,000 or something that we had to come up with.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot
so
of money.
if you're deductible, the cost on something like that, whether it was a tornado or a fire or
A
a
bath.
flood, yeah, you have to pay your deductible. So that's one of the hidden costs.
Okay.
Is if something really bad happens that you think you're insured for, you better have money set aside for that deductible.
Okay.
So you should know, what is my deductible for fire, flood, other damage?
Yeah.
Because if you file a claim, that's what you pay.
Right.
So $15,000 out of pocket. The total cost was like $22,000.
That's insane.
So we paid most of it, but the insurance company covered the rest.
Yeah.
It could have been worse. They would have had to put us up in if it was a smaller
Yeah.
house, they could have had to put us up somewhere
Right.
to rent. So keep in mind your deductibles
Okay.
on big things. But that was a very shocking, quick expense we were not planning on having.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Then I guess next, that covers hidden and ongoing. I guess next would be utilities and
Yes.
energy efficiency.
Yes. And that's another thing
Let's-
we talked about. He was looking at an older home,
Okay. Yeah.
and we just know the standards on being efficient have changed. So your windows, if they're not new, are going to leak more heat and cold.
Yep.
Your walls are not going to be as energy efficient. Even your AC may not be energy efficient. So the bills to heat and cool your home are going to be something you have to factor in.
Which I think is the perfect moment now for us to talk about how silly men are with their thermostats. For example, even just within family, I think this is what was so silly about it, is we went to go visit my brother for their baby shower. And so we're in Arizona, and it was hot.
In April.
It was hot, Dad.
It was like 79 degrees in April.
But it was like in a hot 79 is the thing. And we're in there and like we're moving, right? Like we're decorating for this baby shower, getting it all ready. And I was like, Dad, it is so hot in here. I need you to go turn down the AC or something. What did you say?
I said, you never touch another man's thermostat.
Ridiculous. I said, go turn that down right now.
Especially somebody who is as frugal as your brother.
He is,
or
but he was
your
also
husband.
yes. And Cody was super, super sweet. He's like, oh, it's warm in here. Oh, okay. He just turned it down for us. He was very, very thoughtful. It probably helped that his very pregnant wife was also warm.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Cody!
But I mean, like the same thing, like Dustin had to kind of like learn, like when I live in a sauna, I'm not being dramatic, but it's very warm all the time because Dustin does energy efficiency. But like when we have friends and family over, he will. Now he's learned.
But it's funny because you guys went through this and Cody went through this.
Yeah.
When you guys, and I can't believe it was like this in Arizona, and I don't know if it's still the thing because energy costs have gone up so much.
Yeah.
But most of the time your utilities were just included. Like
Right.
you didn't have your own separate electric bill.
Yeah.
And so we would go over to your apartment or Cody's apartment.
Yeah.
And it would be like an icebox. We'd go
So
back to our
nice.
house and we'd be really hot because
Yeah.
we paid electric. You guys didn't.
We're just living it up.
So you guys move into your own first house.
Oh my goodness.
And you're like, crank that sucker down. It's hot
yeah.
in here.
Yep.
And for whatever
After the
reason, the men in those relationships got the bill and they're like, Miss Pie, we could not keep it at 64
we
degrees.
not be doing this actually. Yeah, that was an adjustment period for sure.
And it's funny, you're like, well, Dustin always adjusts. I'm like, now he does.
Now he does. Yeah. He
because I
definitely-
remember being at your house
Yeah.
and getting texts from some unnamed siblings and be like, can you please turn down the AC? It is so hot in here. Oh, I'm not touching that
I'm
AC.
not touching that AC. That's so funny. Yeah, no, he's learned. He's got enough complaints and enough, what's the word? I guess just attitude.
Yeah, but it's a legit cost.
No, it really is. It's so
And
expensive.
we might have talked about this on budgeting, but one thing on that, and you have to have usually lived there for 12 months. Most utilities companies will offer what's called level billing, so that they'll take, okay, you spent this much last year on energy. We're going to maybe take that times 10% higher and then divide it by 12. Because what we've dealt with in Arizona was you wouldn't have to run the AC or sometimes even the heat in the winter.
Yeah.
And you'd have like a $75 or $100 electric bill.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, all of a sudden it's $600. And you're like, what are
the
we
heck?
doing? And that's what I felt for Cody. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's at that time of year where
Yep.
his energy costs are going up.
They're going up.
And you know, Virginia is a little bit different depending on your type of heat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have electric heat, which a lot of people do now,
Yeah.
that's very expensive in the winter. So
Yeah.
talk to your utility company
Yeah.
if you own a house already or if you're thinking about it, of what is the average cost for electricity.
Mm-hmm. That is good information to have. Same with water. I know we
Yeah.
were talking, I might be totally wrong. I just don't remember it at least. Was well water an option in Arizona?
No.
Because desert, right?
No,
So
yeah,
like
desert.
no. So being here now, well is an option. You guys are on a well, aren't you?
We're on the well.
We
And,
are certainly not.
no, and I was talking to somebody the other day.
That was
who
such a dumb question. Was well water an option in Arizona? Like now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, obviously not.
Like in Arizona, you can't, people that don't live there, you don't even have a crawl space.
Oh,
The
that's
ground
right,
is
yeah.
so hard.
So hard.
They just put a cement slab and that's your foundation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
like
I remember
you can't
that.
even get in the ground
Yeah,
very far.
it's just
in Arizona.
Rocks.
But then you have I don't even know if they still call it that, zero-scape lawns. Like our yards were rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Rocks and desert plants.
Yep.
If you tried to
Somehow
grow
weeds.
grass there, like it was so expensive to do water
Yeah.
because it's such a scarce resource.
Yeah.
But then you move here where everybody has lawns
Yeah.
and everything. And I know it was a shock to you guys because you went from apartment in Arizona where
Oh my goodness.
don't know that you paid water.
I have no idea. You're asking the wrong half
But-
of the marriage.
I don't think you did. I think all your utilities were but then you move here and you're like, wait, we got to pay water.
have to pay
And
for
then
all of
all
these
of a
things?
sudden, this person keeps telling you, you cannot keep taking.
Stop taking an hour-long
Yeah.
shower, Corinne. And I'm like, listen, this doesn't happen naturally, okay?
But then we're on a well, which was brand new for us.
Yeah.
And we kind of have the point, like we have, I think, close to an acre of grass.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, and we're still smart with it. Like we don't water in the middle of the day, but
Yeah.
it's like, well, all that water that doesn't evaporate is going to go right back into where the well came from.
Right.
And same way with those long showers.
Mm-hmm.
There is a cost because we do have to pay for the water heater.
Yeah.
But we found out that the other unnamed person was just making his own sauna in the bathroom for like.
It's like, no, if I just turn the heat all the way up, I just enjoy
and I just
the
sit there and I just
steam
enjoy like
my guy.
we don't pay for the water, but we pay for the propane that's heating the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, this person was saying they moved from a house that had a well to a community that was on, I guess it's county water. We don't have
okay.
a city where we live.
Yeah.
And which is what you guys are on. And he goes,
Yeah.
I had no idea water was that expensive.
Yeah.
Like he's talking like $200 or $300 a month in the summer because they have a big lawn and things like that. So,
well, and I remember too, like, I think it was for one of the summer birthdays last year, I think, a friend was like, well, we've got a couple of different water slides if you want to borrow them. And I was like, you want me to run water down these slides for what, 2-3 hours?
but
I
the
said, babe,
friend's
we
on
can't
the
afford.
well.
She's on a well,
Yep.
so she was like, yeah, just run the water. And I was like, babe, no, we can't afford it. And so I said, we'll have the party at your house.
Yeah.
But I think we ended up doing it at your house because you're also on a well, so
Yep.
it worked out. But
Yeah, we have outdoor
yeah.
water park.
yeah, we really did. It worked out really well. But I don't know. I think, is that all the utilities and energy?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have, like I kind of touched on, you'll have
Stuff.
different types of heat. Like
Yeah.
you'll have gas. Usually gas is where you need to produce more heat.
Okay.
So usually maybe like the bottom floor will be gas if you have a 2-story house
Okay.
because heat rises. So then the upstairs might be electric.
Oh, okay.
So you just got to, when you buy a house,
Yeah.
find out what's the average cost of water, what's the average cost of electricity, what's the average price of gas.
Okay.
If you can't do level billing,
Mm-hmm.
are there months where one is higher than the other, and do I need to plan for that? Because
Plan
that
for
can
it.
get you really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the winter, sometimes what we'll do is we've got like a fireplace that's like with wood. It's not gas or
Yep.
anything. I don't know how to, like a real
A real
fireplace,
fireplace.
like a fire
Yep.
fireplace. And so Dustin will, like, we've got like a little wood shed, and so he'll like, but so it's also got like a blower on it, so
Yep.
it'll like blow out the hot air,
So it's one way to save money.
and so it
on-
does.
on
We'll
heat.
only run the heat upstairs.
Yep.
In those when he goes through the effort.
And that
of-
heat rises, and so sometimes even if you left your doors open, it's hot in your
Oh,
bedrooms.
it probably does. Yeah. I don't know. I don't I'm usually
But
downstairs enjoying the
that's a
fire.
huge way to save money if it's an option.
Yeah.
Is a wood burning
Get a
fireplace
wood
with a blower.
burning with a blower. Yeah,
Yep.
it is loud though. So, I guess last point that we can try to hit today would be talking about one last hidden kind of cost when buying a house would be buying furniture and like renovations, because I know for me it was like this. I think for my sister it was like this, where like you go from an apartment or even from just living at home where it's like I've got a bed and a dresser to my name and that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then you buy a place, an apartment, a house or whatever, more so specifically a house though, and all of a sudden you're like, just got a bunch of empty rooms here. Like, this is a great space, but I've got nothing in it. It's a bunch of empty rooms, right? And furniture's expensive, like crazy expensive.
And yeah, so it kind of fits in. Like, you got to know, are you okay having an empty room? Are you going to be okay with mismatched? You know, we laugh because
that's the other thing. Not all the furniture's going to match.
Yeah, like
Ugh.
you know the different things that people do. Like your brother's like, well, I'll just take whatever we have and we'll make it work for 7 years now.
Yeah.
Like, which is fine. Like super
Yeah.
frugal. It's still comfortable.
Love it.
You guys took furniture from your apartment. We used to laugh because you would invite the twins over. Like, hey, you guys want to come over and we're going to have lunch and play some games.
Yep.
But first, this couch needs to go there. And
need to move this.
Like,
be using your strength.
yeah. Trying to use
labor.
the rooms.
Yeah.
And then there's like me and your mom are like such slow decision makers. Like in both our house in Arizona and the house we have now, I think we're finally done furnishing every room.
I think so.
We still haven't decided what we want on the walls in some rooms.
Yeah.
But
and I'm
we've
so
had
like
empty rooms,
spontaneous that I can't even keep furniture. But you guys have had empty rooms for years.
Yeah. So
and I just walk in and I'm like, how have you not done something with this room yet?
But we're just the type of people who are like,
your patience is what you are.
Like I remember in Arizona when we were just happy to have a house.
Yeah.
Our living room and dining room was the Christmas tree room.
Yeah, that was literally all it was in. Yes.
We would have to bring in folding chairs to open presents.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So it's something you have to know as a person. Like, am I the type that's going to want furniture in every room that matches?
Yeah.
Or am I okay getting the house and the structure and gradually filling it out?
Yeah, slowly.
And there's no right or wrong way.
Mm-mm.
But it is a cost if you are the type of person who wants it furnished and matching and everything.
Yeah. And I will say too, like, I do wish I had more patience when it comes to furnishing a house. I know for me, I was like, no, I really want a couch in my living room, like a new couch. And so we went to like Facebook Marketplace because I was like, I'm not spending all the money because it's so expensive. So we went to Facebook Marketplace and I found us a couch. And then I was like, turns out the owner was a smoker, or turns out the owner had 17 cats.
Yeah. And thus, hey, you guys want to come over for lunch and move this couch to the basement
and then move
or the
couch.
garage?
So change this. We're not actually going to keep this one. So I think we've gone through like four couches. And at this point, I feel like we probably could have just bought a new couch.
Out of your 4 Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I guess it's just personality types, right?
And it is like just know yourself. Know it will be, and even for somebody like me who's okay with empty rooms, it's going to be eating at you, being like, "Why are we wasting this room? We should be using this room."
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, all right. Do we want to go through our next point, or do we want to save it for housing part 3?
Should we do a new condensed format?
We could try a new.
Are we good on time?
We've hit 30 minutes.
Let's cut it here.
Okay.
Help our audience can digest it in 30-ish minutes.
Take it in.
See if we can stick to that next time.
We'll try.
But yeah, I think come back housing part 3.
Yeah.
Take some time to watch housing part 1 and 2. We'll try to recap, but definitely we want to. Home ownership is so important and it's so expensive right now that we don't want people to put themselves at risk financially.
Definitely. Yeah.
For that.
And so I guess last little note would be any resources that we have available.
Yeah.
Would be what's my score dot.
Yeah, what's my score.net.
.net.
The .com wasn't available, still isn't. Nobody, it's not active, but you can't. They want like $2,000 to buy it. So
that's
what's my
silly.
score.net.
.net.
And it's the concept of that we won't get into now, but there's a thing that says improving my score. There's a bunch of resources there.
Yeah.
Like
Like your
mortgage
credit score?
rates, credit, how to get your credit score up, how
Okay.
to do budgeting, how
Yeah.
to do things like that. We touched on it last time. Zillow,
Oh, yeah.
I think Redfin is the other
I
one.
think so.
They give you at least an estimate of what a house costs per month.
Yeah.
Wherever you live, your utility company, look for
Mhm.
level billing
Yes.
is really key. So for electric, and even if they do water, if you could
Mhm.
level that out, it helps your budgeting a lot.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
All right.
I like this slower go.
Yeah, I like it.
We'll come back next time and do housing part
Housing
three,
part 3.
unless we change our mind pre
And do
time.
something
Yep.
different.
But the plan is housing part 3 next month.
Sounds perfect.
All right.
All right.
Good job.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Tyler.